Welcome to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Vista Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it's my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers, impacting our amazing Vista community and beyond. Today, I am joined by Zeke Corley. He's co-owner of two family businesses, Network One Insurance and Financial Services and Bill Corley Insurance Agency, branded simply as YourInsurancePlace.com, specializing in commercial insurance. He's also the owner of A Different Day Networks, LLC, which produces 12 podcasts and counting, while also hosting his own that just completed its 7th season, the Same Business, Different Day podcast. Zeke has lived in Vista with his family since 2018, and he's happy to have his parents also living in Vista just a few miles away. Zeke is also a board director for the Vista Chamber of Commerce and is currently serving as our board chairman. Welcome, Zeke.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate being here. You're really good at that.
Thank you for saying that.
Really, I mean it.
Thank you for saying that. So, Zeke, thank you for finally sitting down with me. I've been asking you for like a year to sit down with me.
I think we have a good history of me telling you no and then you being persistent.
I don't take no very well for an answer. I just keep bugging until you say yes.
I get it. It's okay. Maybe I'm a pushover.
Oh, maybe. Or I'm just very persistent. Maybe both.
All
okay.
Right.
Well, I want to know a little bit about your businesses first. So you're the co-owner or owner of 3 different businesses. So tell me first about YourInsurancePlace.com. How did you get involved in commercial insurance? I mean, as a 5-year-old, were you like, I want to sell insurance? So probably not.
I'm not sure many people ever have done that.
I agree. So tell me a little bit about that story.
I guess you could actually say that kids might grow up saying, I want to do what my parents do.
Okay.
I'm not even sure that was the case for me. My father started our insurance brokerage, Bill Corley Insurance Agency, back in 1977. The other one, I believe, was in like 1993 or something like that. But I was 3 years old when he first started the first one. So you see him working all the time. And so you learn from your parents, you learn that work ethic. And my mom's a part of the agency as well. So you just see that constant get up every day and go work hard. But insurance was never the path for me, really. I would make up to people that I wanted to be a doctor. I don't think I ever really believed it. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I was that great at science or math. Communication was more my thing. But eventually, around 16 years old, which I graduated high school at 16, when I graduated, I started just kind of marketing for the insurance agency, passing out flyers, helping with some quoting and stuff like that. And that was fun, and, you got to be social, some networking and all of that. So we started that young. But then I went off into a different business before I got back into the insurance brokerage.
So tell me about that other business, the other path.
A few other businesses, right? So
yeah.
I was working at the radio station in college at San Jose State University, and that was something I thought I might do forever, be involved in music. So with working at the radio station, got to host events and all, and started working for record labels and selling mixtapes and just kind of living that musician's dream. And eventually needed a Christmas job, a job for some Christmas money, because really you don't make a lot of money as a disc jockey. You get to go to free concerts and stuff, but it is great. I've seen more music and more musicians than I don't need to see anymore personally. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I said, needed some money and started selling phones in a mall for Singular Wireless, which eventually got sold to AT&T. Selling phones in one mall, did well, made plenty of money. Then next thing you know, I got moved to manager at a different location and flown out to Carlsbad to interview for even more locations. So at some point, I eventually wound up with 43 locations and training sales of 300 employees. So again, it wasn't math and science. It was all talk.
Mm-hmm. Communication.
That's it.
All the way back to 16, making flyers and passing them out. Definitely that vibe. So that kind of ties into your other business, which is your podcast network. Mm-hmm. So tying back to communication, tying back to your radio days. Yeah. So how did this idea for your podcast and then also the network come to be?
Interestingly, this was at the beginning of COVID when we had kind of downsized the agency, and it was just me and my dad. My dad started working from home, and my mom as well, working from home. And I was looking for a place, just to have as a brick and mortar office. There were a lot of offices to go around back then, if you can remember. Mm-hmm. Everybody was working from home, but I couldn't just sit at home for that much longer. I'd been in there for a couple of months, and it's like, okay, let's get an office. So we wound up at the Film Hub. But right around the corner from my office is this studio here with these microphones, and I just kept getting these flashbacks to the old DJ days. We call them DJs. I'm that old where we call them DJs. It's not the scratch DJ guy. It's the disc jockey, the guy who was actually on the radio announcing the next song and leading in the commercials and all of that fun stuff. So I started a podcast, and next thing you know, because of the production value, I guess, people started knocking on the door and asking me if I could produce their podcast as well. And I think you were the first.
Yeah, I said, I want to do a podcast and I don't know how.
Yeah.
Help me. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. You're great at it, and you just keep getting better at it. I think you're an awesome host.
Thank you for saying that.
I'm a fan of the show.
Thank you.
Everybody who's watching, watch Velocity more and tell a friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that. 100%. So I have a question. Back in your radio days, and we were a DJ, why did the DJs talk over the songs? I was sitting there with my cassette tape player trying to make a recording of my favorite song. Why did they talk over the songs?
Come on, that's the best part. First of all,
why?
Just recognize the talent that's involved. Okay, so this song you may have heard before. You're not exactly sure exactly. I was doing this with, I was doing it with my son just a couple of weeks ago. So there was a song that was playing, and at the beginning of it, it's got this instrumental
the intro
before you get the first lyrics. And you have to have the ability to continue the conversation and then lead right into the songs. And so I understand what you're saying, because we used to call those pause tapes. It's where you're recording off of the radio, you put the little thing in the cassette and everything, and you press record right when your song's coming on. And then you pause until you're ready to record some other song. Pause tapes are awesome. But the talent of the disc jockey to be able to announce the radio station, the time of day, trap, whatever it is.
Weather, and then, contest.
And then say the name of the artist that's about to play and stop right on time. Finish your sentence right on time before that's not easy. And you can do it on the fade out as well. That's a talent. I understand, but the lead-ins are essential to being a disc jockey.
Yeah. I remember just sitting in my room and trying to make a mixtape with all my favorite songs. And you have to wait sometimes an hour or something for your song to come on. Yeah. And then it's like, oh man, I just gave the weather report right on top of the intro of my favorite song. So I appreciate the talent, but it was annoying as like a teenager.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. Especially because like when you think about it, like when are you going to use those mixtapes? Especially like, the Quiet Storms or whatever. So you're using that. That's kind of like your bedroom mixtape. And then there's some DJ talking over like in the middle of a song. It's like that kind of ruins the vibe.
It's jarring. Yeah, exactly. Well, so what about those skills that you learned during that time do you apply when you're a podcast host?
Obviously, the interviewing skills for one. I mean, the back and forth, being able to listen. I got to sit down with a lot of great artists and hear about their, the process or their path, how they got to being the musician that they are. But being able to utilize your voice, multitasking, because, you're working controls and everything while you're talking, but also the ability to, so it's not exactly public speaking, but in a way it is, because the audience, you can blank out the audience. Essentially. In radio, you might be in there as just you and your engineer or a couple of people in there, but even when you're actually, and you do it all the time, you're getting up there and you're making a speech or something like that, you are talking to a lot of people, but you can't talk to them all individually. You just got to project and just go for it. And so I think that that's one of my favorite things that I've picked up from it, is that not being scared to communicate.
Yeah. Well, how do you decide the stories you want to feature on your show? How do you pick your guests and how do you decide which stories to amplify? Because obviously it's an amazing opportunity for someone to come on, tell their story, and especially the businesses that you choose. So how do you do that?
I like successful business owners that want to share their entire story. I think it's important to start at the beginning because first you got to look for the audience, right? And so what I'm looking to do is inspire. I'm looking to inspire future entrepreneurs. I think business ownership is very important. Even in through all of the process that I just explained to you, I started my first business when I was 17 years old. My parents have been entrepreneurs since I was born. Mm-hmm. And so I believe in, that dream. And I know a lot of people, they have that creativity and somebody will stifle it and say, no, just go work for somebody or whatever. So to have that opportunity, everybody has the opportunity to start their own. Now, I want them as they're going through their path to hear some of these stories because these stories, they can find a parallel somewhere in there. Maybe you weren't raised in the same place or, in that same, family structure or whatever, but you find a parallel in there somewhere. And then you look at the end of where this person is now and say, wow, I could do it too. Where they veered left, where they veered right. You might not make the same decision, but at least let's draw some parallels. So I love the stories.
Can you think of anybody, or maybe one or two, that just really have stuck with you? Stories that you've heard or helped to share? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Season by season, I've really had so many. I remember the horse veterinarian out of the Bay Area. He was a great conversation because he had been through so much. There was a lot of military folks that we've had conversations with and got to see, how did you get from here to there? Like Dave Baldwin, being in the Navy and then, now being a, strong financial planner, a leading financial planner. So you've got, I've got a lot of stories. Belief was an amazing story. He was
on my show too.
Yeah, he was.
Great interview.
It was one of the first times I'd heard him tell the story about when his wife sat him down and asked him for his 5-year plan. And so planning is such a big part of this entrepreneurship. And, she kind of jarred him into figuring out, I need that plan. But now look where he is now, and that same kind of conversation can happen with a husband and wife, a boyfriend and girlfriend, somebody that's relying on you. And you say, well, what you got? What's your goals? What's the plan? What are we going to do? If we're going to get together, are we just getting together just to hang out, make kids or what?
Yeah.
Or are we going to actually do something? So there's been so many amazing stories. Really. Yeah.
Tell me about some of the other shows on the network. Anybody that you want to shout out?
Industry Insights with Film Hub, obviously Velocity. Run It by My Lawyer is awesome.
Joe's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a lot. He's a stand-up comedian. It takes a special talent. We talk about the talent of the DJ. We talk about the talent of talking to no audience. Joe is talking to no audience. Joe is talking directly to the camera and hoping that they're laughing on the other side.
And they are.
They had to be.
Yeah.
But also, he's laughing at his own joke. So he's hearing the laughs anyway.
Yeah.
But it takes a special talent.
Yeah.
Maybe a little mental illness, but talent too.
Yeah.
But he's awesome. We've got so many shows. It's just, Couples Unfiltered is one of my favorites. That's one of the newest ones that just started.
Super inspiring.
Yes. Really good stories. They are both widowed. And then found each other and are now married, but, raising kids together. And they've got just awesome stories to tell. Actually, Belief's going to be on their show, too, with his wife. So that's awesome. So
can't wait to hear
something
that
to
one.
Look forward to.
Yeah, that's really great. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to transition our conversation a little bit to talk about your involvement with the Vista Chamber. So tell me, why did you even join a Chamber of Commerce?
Okay. I'll let you, because I was going to reverse that question. But that's cool. So, again, when we talked about the downsizing and joining the Film Hub, one of the things that we had decided that we needed to do is we still needed to network. We still needed to find a way to connect with the business community. Because like I said, we're selling business insurance. It's different than selling personal lines insurance.
Right.
It's not just homes and autos. these are business people. They're professionals. They don't have a lot of time. And a lot of them want to see you face to face in order to do business with you. This is not just some, hey, let's just call around and find the lowest price kind of situation.
It's a relationship business. You have to have trust.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So we joined a couple of chambers and are, one of them being Vista. We live in Vista. And it really made a lot of sense for us to do so. It's not always easy. Still takes some time to develop that trust. And we come in a room, we're certainly a little bit different. It's between me and my dad, they're always going to say the guy with the hat, I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? But we knew how to build trust with clients because we've been doing it for so many years. We just got to get in their face. We had to have the opportunity to meet them. And, although my dad's not as much that guy anymore, I still have I like to meet strangers motto. So that's where the chamber starts.
I don't feel like you meet strangers. You just meet people and then connect with them.
Well, that's part of studying sociology is understanding human behavior. And so when you meet people, you can see some characteristics that make sense and places where you guys can bond.
Yeah.
No matter what, walk of life they've come from. So that's really what I believe in is, it might be a little body language. It might be the way that they're talking or what they're drinking or what they're doing. But if I can find a way to have a conversation with you, I'm sure we can find common ground.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree completely. Oftentimes, in my role, I'm navigating people who have an issue or a problem, or they need help in some way, or they have a frustration, not necessarily at the chamber, but just about their business. And oftentimes you can't really help them until you understand why they're doing what they're doing, how they're acting, what's important to them. And so I think when you can get kind of past those layers of either frustration or concern or confusion, and you can get to the why, then you can connect on a deeper level and you can find that common ground and help to solve challenges.
And, a part of that too, with the networking aspect or what you call net weaving is specifically that, which is that I'm not just necessarily there to grow my business. So when I teach networking classes, you remember the old game Simon Says?
Absolutely.
With the, the light, it lights up. And so it's red, green. You're just trying to figure out and match the colors. I like to play that game. I'm really good at remembering names. And so as I'm working a room, it's like, okay, well, you need to meet this person and you need to meet this person. And I'm just putting the puzzle pieces together. That's just fun for me. But it comes back. It comes back around, because now, one, I'm remembering their name. I remember what they do. And I've also helped solve one of their needs. And all I need you to know is what I do. And when you're ready, reach out to me.
Absolutely. I love that. And I feel like I'm the same way. I love connecting people, putting people together. Oftentimes we have events where we have, people are seated in certain seats. And, I take pride in really making those tables a positive experience for people. And I love it when, after Heroes, somebody comes up to me and says, wow, I was sitting next to so-and-so at Heroes and now we're going to work on a project together. And I'm like, imagine that. How did that come to be? So that's really rewarding. And and I love doing it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, that it benefits the chamber or me personally necessarily, but it does, back to that net weaving concept, create these connections and this web really where no one falls through. So I think that's something that I immediately saw about you and liked about you and felt like we had in common. So I'm glad that we're on the same team.
That's it.
Yeah. So so what made you decide, other than me bugging you, to go from being a chamber member to serving on our board? And then what made you decide to say yes to being the chair? I'm curious.
Is solely you. I won't blame, I should say, give you all the credit. But so you and I, because we were both working at the Film Hub at the time, we'd sit down occasionally, just stop by the office and we just talk and, you let off some steam or whatever. And I felt like we had a connection that wasn't just like a typical business connection. It was one of those where it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm good at listening, reading a little body language, giving a little advice. And I feel like we kind of built that. And with that, you're like, why don't you just come a little bit closer?
Yeah.
If you join the board, then your input could be. And so I tell you, the first few months of being on the board, it wasn't, that exciting to me. It was a little nerve-wracking. There's a lot of opinions getting tossed around. But once I figured out what the common goal was, which took some time, then, hey, everybody's opinion matters, and we need to figure out how we can actually make the chamber the best that it can be, not just be in there trying to use this as a place where we can just voice our grievances. Mm-hmm. So then when it came time to being the chair, it was the same kind of question you asked me. What do you think about doing this? And I said no immediately, I hope. And because I meant it. And numerous times. But this time I actually had to go around because I was getting more comfortable on the board. I knew who was on the board around us. And I knew also who you were going to invite onto the board for the future, during my tenure. So I said, okay, well, I know that these are people that I can work with to, towards a common goal. So let's think about it. But I still have to go poll some people, ask some questions, find out what other people thought about me taking on this position. And I gave all the reasons why I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And some of those people that I really respect, including yourself, were like, that's the reason why we need you. Mm-hmm. And that's it's an interesting thought process. Because it's not how we usually work in business.
Well, I don't feel like you're seeking recognition or like necessarily seeking to be a spokesperson for the chamber. You're not looking for, there are some people who want to be in leadership of the chamber because they want their voice to be heard the loudest, or they want to advance their own business, or they have these personal interests. And that's, and I'm not saying specifically at the Vista Chamber, but just in general. Mm. And, I don't think you were any of those things.
It wasn't a springboard for me, not whatsoever. Really, honestly, the final answer is that I did it for you.
Yeah. Aw,
period.
Thank you.
I was like, I think I could be useful and helpful in helping Rachel with her endeavors when it comes to the chamber. And I think that she trusts my voice. So here we are.
And I do. Yeah. And here we are.
Right.
And here we are. Is there anything about the chamber that you're particularly proud that you were part of?
I'd say Rising Stars was fun. I'm not necessarily a part of it, but it's good to, experience it, see that happening. Proud to be there and meet the leaders. And I'm proud of that. I actually am proud of actually having a successful event.
Yeah.
But all of it, really honestly, though, the state of the city's fun. It's good to, jab back and forth with the mayor and all the other cool things that we've been doing. But all of it has kind of helped me just become a better citizen of Vista. And I think that that's what matters because that's where I live.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I give you a lot of credit for helping with velocity with this podcast and helping me even get it going. Because it was a good 6 or 8 months. I think I told you, I think I'm going to do a podcast. And then time went by. I'd walk past this room and think, gosh, how do I even do this?
Yeah.
So I really credit you with a lot, with 1, pushing me to do it, and 2, helping me get it going. So thank you for that. Yeah. And then also, I think you've also been really great about helping us connect to folks that we wouldn't have necessarily met normally. Businesses that maybe I didn't already know or that the chamber wasn't connected to. So I really appreciate you making those connections. So that's those are things you should also be proud
I appreciate it. Yes, I'm proud of everything that I've done with the chamber. But I will say, though, about the podcast, it's important. I don't care how many podcasts there are in the world. This is the future of, radio's pretty much obsolete, right? So you've got podcasts. There's 2.4 million podcasts in the world, and there are plenty of other voices that need to be heard. And so I'm here to help hosts create the shows that they really want to create. They can be so useful in so many ways. You have a show, if let's say it's 30 minutes, let's say it's an hour, however long, that you can take pieces of and advance your business using that for marketing. There are a lot of ways to use podcasting that's a lot less expensive than hiring a marketing company to do something, because hiring a marketing company is very expensive when you want to just do a shoot for a day or something like that. Podcasting is very smart, and I'm glad you were smart enough to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, I'm really grateful for the Film Hub as well, because we have this beautiful space. We have great production quality. We partner with other folks that are based here at the Film Hub to help put it all together. It's very reasonably priced, but we put out what I think is the production value is great.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate having such a great local resource to do that. So just a little shout out for the Film Hub, and anybody who's thinking about podcasting. There's 2 different podcast studios here, and additional rooms too that could be a podcast studio if you wanted to. So, I agree with you. I think podcasting is the future, and everybody has a voice. Not everybody wants to have a podcast or should have a podcast, but if you have a voice and you want to tell a story or help other people tell their, I love hearing other people's stories. So, and I like amplifying that.
Agreed.
So, so that's been really good. So thank you for your help with it. 100%. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, they follow the host. I just want you to know that when it comes to shows, the reason why shows become popular is because of who's the host. You could have not a good guest, like you might not have a good guest this week, but people still come back and listen because it's the host, and the host is still going to lead the story.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. I really credit the awesome guests that I have on the show for helping us grow our listenership. And, we've been doing this almost 3 years now. We're wrapping up our 3rd year, and, our listenership just continues to grow. And we haven't, there are folks with a lot bigger budgets who have money to really blast it out. Right. And we don't do that. It's happened really organically by people telling friends, or we have a guest on who says, "Hey, I did a thing," and we gain some more followers that way. So, and I think I like that. I like that it's true, authentic, and organic. And I also love that it represents Vista and the people here, and that it's something that hopefully our community can be proud of, and that I'm just, part of it is really exciting for me. So thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So what else, is there anything else you want to tell people about your business, the podcast network, the chamber? Is there anything that we didn't talk about while you're here with me today that you really want to say?
I will say, insurance-wise. Yeah. I think it's important to speak to that. I mean, when I first started studying insurance and learning about insurance, it was about helping business owners sleep at night. I know they're busy. I know they work hard. They work hard for their money, and you don't want to just turn around and spend it all back on insurance. It's been a tough time in California for property insurance right now. Everybody's getting labeled fire hazard, fire zones. It's really not as much of the biggest natural disaster that we potentially have in California, but that's just the position that the insurance companies and carriers have put us in, and many of them are leaving the state. You still have opportunities to get property insurance. Self-insuring is dangerous. Again, once you sleep at night, if you're self-insuring, you got to pull money out of your pocket if you did have a loss. That said, I understand. Regardless of that, on top of it, you've got general liability, workers' comp, professional liability, and so many other coverages that are necessary as well. So, stay insured, and you want to shop around, shop with us. Yeah,
I love that. Can you speak for just a quick second about cybersecurity insurance? Because I've heard a lot from our business members that they are afraid of a cybersecurity issue, don't necessarily know. A lot of it's really nebulous. Cybersecurity things can be anything from phishing and scams to people getting into your system and stealing your files, ransomware, things like that. So cybersecurity insurance, how important is it? Should people have it?
That's crucial. It's been crucial for many years now. That was one that we chose as kind of a niche of ours years ago. Now it's moved on to employment practices liability, which is another one that's very important that I'd speak about. But the cybersecurity, that phishing, the malware, all of that stuff, you can find those as sublimits. It's not very expensive policy. Now, you might get later on, it might become a more expensive policy. Get it now. Be covered. One of the biggest pieces of cyber insurance, cyber liability insurance that I would say people need to consider is that if there is an actual hack, and you store information, credit card information, Social Security information, all of these things, it's very costly to go notify all of your clients that this has happened and then to help them repair the issue. That's where a lot of the cost is. And so consider that. And like I said, buy cyber insurance. It's not very expensive. If you feel that you're at risk, your type of business is at risk, then you got to buy it. I know if you're not a bank with 3-4 firewalls and all that kind of stuff, you have to consider it. Data is too important, especially in this day and age. Everybody's on their phone. Everybody's using technology some way or another, passing around this information through the cloud. It can be found by somebody. And I mean, I think over the years it's been proven nobody's really safe. If they want to target you, they will get you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get the coverage. So employment practices liability, I think, is also a very important one in this Me Too era, where you've got, workplace harassment, workplace violence, wrongful termination. Everybody, you're almost guilty until proven innocent in this situations. And what winds up happening is a lot of these companies have to wind up settling. So if you've got employees, and they've got a wage and hour dispute, they've got a lot of things, they get believed, or if you don't have the coverage, then you wind up having to find a way to settle, hire an attorney and settle. If you have the coverage, even the insurance company might settle, but at least you're covered. At least that's on the insurance company. It's not coming out of your pocket. Again, not a very expensive policy, but a very important one to be protected.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times people don't think about that insurance until they need to use it. Yeah, but right? At that point, it's too late. Yeah. So, I heard recently a story from a business, not Vista, another chamber had a business that had a cybersecurity thing where they mistakenly sent an ACH to a scammer. And it was a very large amount of money. And when you send an ACH to somebody, it's, without that insurance, they were out that money and then they still owed their vendor. So, it's really tricky. So you want to, and I think when they realized, I think it cost them like over $40,000. And in hindsight, the policy would have been about $1,800 or something like that, maybe even less. And so, yikes, that's a big difference. So, absolutely. And then also with the employment practices, very important, especially if you're a business with employees with a couple of layers of supervision. As a business owner, you're wearing a lot of hats. You cannot personally supervise everybody, and you have to rely on other people as well. Right. So it protects you from not just your own actions, but their actions and everybody's actions. And 100%. So super important, super
Absolutely.
important.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I have some rapid fire questions for you. Okay. Not a surprise, I'm sure, since you've heard every one of my episodes.
Yeah, I'm usually in the other room.
You're usually in the other room watching. So thank you for being on.
Up for this.
Thank you for being on this side of the wall, of the glass wall. So okay, so tell me a book everyone should read.
I was thinking about this.
Well, you knew it was coming.
Yeah. I was thinking about it because there's so many books that, I'm not saying I'm super well read or anything, but there are a lot of books that I've read that I think I'd recommend here and there. But I feel like a lot of folks on this show give a book that kind of taught them management or helped them in their craft one way or the other. So mine is a little bit more fun. I have this book that I like by Questlove Thompson, who's the drummer on The Tonight Show, right? And the leader of The Roots. He's actually a very good writer.
He's a smart dude in every category. Yeah. Musical genius, so articulate, like a great writer, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this one isn't necessarily an inspirational book, but it's called Mixtape Potluck. And it's basically a cookbook. But and it's a cookbook with recipes from all of his famous friends.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And with every single recipe, he chooses a song that he would put with this particular recipe.
I love that.
This particular one, it's more like a family gathering type food. We got this soul food type song. And so it's got a lot of great songs that it makes you want to play. You're listening to it, and you're like, I'll just play it while I'm making this recipe. So yeah, Mixtape Potluck. Yeah,
I love food.
Back to your mixtape talk.
Yeah, I love food and I love music. They go so well together.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I've never would have thought to put an individual song with a certain recipe. There are times where I'm cooking and I put on like a certain album.
Okay.
When I'm cooking a certain thing, like a certain kind of food, I'll put on a certain album. So I'm going to definitely check that one out.
Yeah, you
Thanks for
should.
the recommendation.
Yeah.
All right. I know you're a music guy, but you got to give me what's your jam? What's a song you have to turn up?
I have a lot.
I
But
know.
I have one, and I turned it up. I was turning it up for years, and then I introduced it to my mom, and now she demands it be played at every party. And she gets up and she dances and she makes everybody else dance, which makes me smile, which makes everybody, the party goes. And it's called Simply Beautiful by Sleepy's Theme is the group.
Okay.
Sleepy Brown of the Dungeon family. He had a group called Sleepy's Theme, and the song is called Simply Beautiful. Can I give you a couple lyrics?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So, he says, what might not be good for you is what many of us are accustomed to. If you open up your mind, love's not so damn hard to find. And we will see in the midst of all that everyone and everything is simply beautiful.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He said a couple of times. Absolutely. You got to check that song out. And it makes you dance.
I don't know that I've ever heard it. It just doesn't jump out to me. But
Yeah.
are you sure? I've heard a lot of things. I'm going to go listen. I'll tell you if I've heard it. Okay. I may not remember the name, but maybe not. We'll see. All right. Something that inspires you.
This one's a tough one. There's a couple. Well, first of all, my kids, right?
Yeah.
So both of them college students. My son has special needs and has been through a ton, but he's in his third year of college and is doing a great job.
Awesome.
And I've always said that he's my hero because to have the ability to do what he's accomplished and smile the way he does every day and constantly try to tell jokes too.
He's a delight.
Yeah, he's constantly trying to tell jokes, constantly trying to come up with a new joke because he just wants to make people laugh. And I've got a very dry sense of humor, and I'm very, it's clear when I don't think something's funny. Mm-hmm. So he's fighting an uphill battle, and I feel sorry for him. But at the same time, you just can't beat that kind of resilience, being bullied, being, all of that stuff. Just to be the kid that he is, he's incomparable. He's my hero.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, also college students in general, it's a tough time in the world, and there are a lot of kids that are just trying to express themselves and have some voices, and I feel for kids. I was at an event earlier today, I gotta say, and it's I'm not trying to be controversial or anything, but we're talking about peace in the Middle East, and just and an event went well, it went fine. There was nothing physical. But, kids were loud, they were disruptive, they were just being the kids that they were. And, they had been approached by sheriffs, and the sheriffs were like, maybe we need to remove you kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they were ready to, hey, remove me if you have to. For me, I have a history of just understanding, things don't have to go physical if you know how to communicate. We're going back to that communication thing, right? Things don't have to get physical. And I'm glad they weren't. Now, when I was leaving, I was in the elevator with a group of people who were leaving the event. And one of the men were like, I just wanted to kick those kids' butts. Mm-hmm. It's kids, And so I will continue to be inspired by children and their tenacity and, just trying to find their voice. And I wish everybody health.
Yeah, absolutely. We hear, you mentioned Rising Star earlier, and we have these kids that come through Rising Star and they're all about to go off to school and start their adult lives. And I'm just so inspired by them. I'm inspired by college kids. I'm inspired by kids who, it's cliche, but they're the future. And thinking back, I'm an older lady now, but there was a time where I was young and I had passion and idealism and wanted to make a difference in this world and wanted to fight for something. Yeah. And it's really admirable in my mind to have something that you want to fight for and that matters to you. And I think, recognizing that. And it may even be you don't necessarily agree with whatever side they're on, right?
Yeah.
But you can respect and admire their passion and the way that they care. And in that particular issue, the Middle East issue, it's about other people in their lives. Yeah. And, there's a lot at stake. So I agree with you. I think that's really inspirational. So thank you for that one.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was an emotional morning. So thanks for letting me share.
Yeah, of course. All right. Last question. Mm-hmm. Give me a Vista business that deserves a shout out.
Star Fox Media.
Okay.
Without them, a lot of this wouldn't have been possible. When we started the podcast network, it was like, yes, I can record this and I can, sit here and talk into the microphone, but can you guys make this high quality?
Yeah.
Can you guys turn this up and put us on the level of other great podcasters all over the country? And they kept coming up with new ideas and new ways to continue to make it better. And so thankful to
They're right in there.
Thankful to them, all of them, and bringing this good equipment and getting you guys this good sound. And I hope you guys are enjoying it.
And giving me as few chins as possible. I appreciate that.
AI is coming.
Okay. You know what? I welcome that addition. That's great. Well, Zeke, I want to thank you so much for being here. Thanks for saying yes, finally.
I said no a couple times before.
But it's time. I mean, your term is ending in June.
Yeah. It's actually kind of bittersweet. Yeah. I really enjoyed being there for you. Hopefully I can still be your right hand sometimes. Yeah.
You better. You're not off the hook that easy.
Right on.
Yeah. Thank you to today's guest, Zeke Corley, our Vista Chamber Board Chair and triple business owner. And thank you for listening to Velocity. If you like what you heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell a friend. Help us move Vista forward with velocity. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization that serves as a catalyst for business growth. Find us online at vistachamber.org.